This is number 13 in the alcohol rehabilitation series. And the first thing we want to do for this section is to have you get in as relaxed and comfortable a position as possible. Close your eyes and just let your whole body completely relax. Take a deep breath. And now picture to yourself some scene that makes you feel the most relaxed. You can pick a scene that we have used in the past to relax yourself, something you found effective, or you can pick something out of your own past where you felt completely relaxed. Get that scene in your mind, picture it in your mind, and picture yourself there, completely relaxed, going even deeper, deeper still, into a state of complete relaxation. Letting yourself drift deeper and deeper. You've begun to really master this technique of relaxation. You're still picturing in your mind very vividly this scene. It's still in your mind. It's clear, very clear to you, and you're enjoying it tremendously. Each section you visualize makes your whole body more and more relaxed. And now we'll begin our scene. Now imagine that you're on a train. You've been away out of town for a while on a special job. Getting back to town, getting closer and closer. The other day, you had called home, told them you would be in, and what time you'd be in. You remember the call. They asked you where you would be. You said to them at the train station. But then you thought to yourself, you don't like to be dependent on anyone, so instead of saying, yes, I want you to come meet me when I come in, you told him, oh, if you have something to do, I can get a ride home easily. The train's chugging along, you're looking out the window, trees are flashing by, you're getting closer and closer. You think they'll come anyway, even though you left it kind of unclear, saying that you could get home yourself. You think if they love you, they'll come, even though you told them you could get a ride home. Getting closer to the city now, starting to see houses, getting closer to the end of the trip, houses flashing by outside the train window. Trains chugging into the station. You get out on the platform, standing there with your suitcase, looking around. You see other people greeting each other, hugging, kissing. Their wives and loved ones have come to greet them after the trip. There's no one there to greet you. You told them you would get a ride home, but you thought they might come anyway. You were sure they'd come, but they didn't read your mind and thought you didn't really want them to come, apparently. For some reason, you find yourself becoming very angry that they're not there. Even though they only obeyed your orders, you feel they should have known what you really wanted. Too bad you didn't tell them, but you feel angry anyway. You start finding yourself getting really angry. You think, what the hell, they don't give a damn about me. You find yourself being furious no one is there. You jump in a cab, and instead of heading for home, you decide you'll get even with them for not showing up, so you head to the nearest bar. Order 3 double shots of whiskey in a row. Drink it down. Picture yourself in the bar, sitting at a stool, stewing angrily, ordering the shots, pouring it down. Each drink making you a little bit more angry. Thinking you find yourself mumbling, so they didn't show up to get me. They don't give a damn. So then you decide you'll really let them know. You call them up and say, well, I didn't make it home, I've been drinking. And so they're really worried. You think that'll teach them a lesson. They're upset about this. They say, well, we'd have come to pick you up. We'll be right down to the bar and pick you up. You told them what bar you're at. You're still mad. You're madder than ever. You've worked yourself up. The booze has helped you get angry. You think they rejected you. You hop in another cab, dragging your suitcase along. And things become more and more hazy as you're going along. Picture yourself getting confused, climbing in and out of cabs, in and out of bars, more phone calls, more confusion, until finally the scene changes and you're waking up. Now you find yourself lying down, just waking up from a groggy sleep. You had been drinking for a long time. You don't remember what happened. You vaguely remember the cabs going back and forth, throwing down more shots of whiskey. You're afraid to open your eyes. Your head is pounding, throbbing. It's very painful. Your whole body is aching. You can feel bruises. You don't know whether you fell down or into a fight or got robbed. Your suitcase that you had is gone. You begin to notice above the pains and bruises in your throbbing head some itching sensations in your genital area, in your crotch, especially the hair of your crotch. You scratch it, it still itches. You're just about ready to open your eyes. You open them, and in this scene you see you're in a dingy, run-down hotel room. Each breath you take now, you feel the stale liquor, just your own breath, reeks of the booze that you drank all last night. You look around the room, there's bottles on the floor. You look at the ceiling, notice the paper and plaster peeling away. You've been in a horrible bed and your back hurts, one of those cheap run-down hotel beds. You become aware of something next to you. You painfully rise up on an elbow, your head's throbbing, and discover a big, fat, slovenly, ugly woman naked in bed next to you. You're both naked, and another bottle of booze is curled up. She's got a bottle of booze tucked into her armpit. She's snorting loudly. Her mouth hangs open. Her breath smells foul of stale booze. Her teeth are partly decayed. Ugly makeup is smeared over her face. Looks like it ran through a meat grinder. She's so big and fat the bed sags. You had been lying next to her with sweat where you touched running off your bodies. You're horrified, shocked. This is the ugliest woman you could ever remember. You're aware of the itching. Again, you look down at your crotch and then at her crotch, and you see hundreds of little body lice climbing up and down the hairs, crawling all around the genitals. It's the crabs. It's horrible. You can't remember anything, how you met her, except throwing down the booze. Don't know how you got there. Just the alcohol had numbed your brain. You leap out of bed, shocked, grab for your pants. She wakes up and smiles and says, "You can't leave, dearie. We got married last night. Don't you remember?" The scene fades. Let yourself go back into a state of relaxation, becoming more and more relaxed. Think of your arms now. Concentrate on your arms and let them relax. You're able now to relax parts of your body just by thinking about it. Becoming more and more successful at mastering relaxation in various periods of stress. Your legs are becoming more and more relaxed. Now we're going to play that same scene over again. Only this time we're going to have a different ending. We're going to back way up now. And you've been on a train. This train is chugging you toward home. You've been away from home for quite a while. On a trip, maybe a week. You're eager to get back home. And you make a call from the town just before your town. Imagine yourself, you're standing in a train station in a phone booth, making this call, and somebody at the other end of the line answers, very sleepy. They're a little surprised you called. They said, "I didn't expect you back." You say, "Well, I'm not back. The train's due in." You tell them the time. They say, "Do you want me to come and get you?" And here you are trapped in the same situation where you were before. The other time you said, "Oh no, I can make it home all right," but really expected them to come. You got mad when they didn't. This time you say, "Well, of course I want you to come and get me. What are people for if they can't help each other out?" So they answer and they say, "Well, okay, we'll be there." And you get back on the train, traveling. You're looking out the window. You're watching the trees go by, telephone poles, trains getting closer and closer to the end of the trip. And finally, houses show up off to the sides, going through some tunnels into the city. You're seeing all this from the train. Train finally chugs to a stop. The station. You get out of the car and stand there, thinking how glad you are that you played this scene a little differently this time. How glad you won't be running off to drink. And sure enough, up the platform, there they are. They're running toward you. They're really glad to see you. They all grab you and hug you. They're welcoming you home. And the whole difference between the good feeling that you feel now being with the people you love and the other one was the setup. In other words, this time you set it up for them to do what you wanted them to and come and get you without any bones about what you wanted. Now you're letting yourself relax, feeling more and more relaxed. Going into a completely relaxed state, becoming more relaxed. And now we're going to continue on an earlier theme around the imagination of positive experiences following turning down alcohol. In this scene, you had some trouble getting a job, finally had gotten a job, and finally you were making a trip to the Grand Canyon, and on this trip you took somebody that you were very much in love with. It's now dark. You've been at the Grand Canyon for a short while. And then what you were afraid of seems to begin. Checked into your hotel room. She seemed to have been enjoying herself, but now she seems afraid that it won't last. Afraid that you might disappoint her, just like you did so many times in the past. Almost as though she can't stand the thought of being caught off guard by you disappointing her. She seems determined to create a scene, to make a scene between you and her, to get it over with, to drive you to doing something that will disappoint her. So she won't have to sit around wondering if it will happen. You knew that this was coming though, and you feel like you're prepared. You know that anything worth having is worth fighting for, worth growing through the bad as well as the good. She has many feelings, feelings of longing, feelings of disappointment and sadness that she doesn't know what to do with. She wants to believe that this thing you had between you today will go on, but she is afraid, insecure. You really had a good time today on your way to the Grand Canyon. She doesn't know how to handle her feelings and her doubts. She starts to get a little crabby in the hotel room. At first, just about minor things. You know something's on her mind. You're tempted, as you have before, to just blow up and run out. But you also have another feeling this time that you're going to stick with it because you've now learned how to relax, how to delay long enough till you can get a good line. You've heard the terms baptism by fire, and if you have to stick through a little hell to get to heaven with this woman, you're willing to try it. You tell yourself to just relax while she begins her little nagging about things. She starts complaining about money. Well, she says, this trip is wonderful, but don't you think it would have been better to use the money to pay the bills first and get back on your feet? There she is, immediately bringing up the past, talking about you being on your feet. Even though she's enjoyed the trip, she's suggesting that you shouldn't really have had it. She's immediately suggesting, just by her comment about the past, bringing up the times when you weren't on your feet for periods of time. You're tempted to respond to that, tempted to answer her. Should you get angry? Should you accuse her of not trusting you? Should you suggest she's trying to get you upset? You decide to try a new approach. You decide to try flattery to catch her off guard. Flattery is hard to give an angry reply back to. You say to her, well, I know you're right about the money. It would be nice to be all caught up on debts, but then I've made a good start on that already. I'll be caught up completely in another couple months. But the real reason I wanted to take this trip now was because I think you have deserved it. You've been patient, stuck by me through a lot of troubles. You say this, knowing meanwhile that she has really deserted you enough times too. But then again, if you want someone to stick by you, you tell them they did, so they believe that. You continue talking to her. The way I see it, it's kind of like Christmas, you know, if you're in debt and it's Christmas time and the kids are sitting around waiting for Santa Claus, you could say, well, kids, Santa isn't going to make it this year. He'll be here about June. So you could have paid off all your debts and not gone into debt anymore, but then these kids would be shortchanged of Christmas. Sometimes you just have to go ahead and do things when the time is right. You have to have something to believe in, something to make things worthwhile. And us having this trip together is a better investment than anything else we could have done with this money. You smile, really proud of yourself, the way you handled her initial complaints. This was a different approach for you. You didn't defend yourself. You kind of tricked her a little bit, in a sense. She finds it hard to continue. She can't complain about money now because you've told her she deserves this trip. She's worked for it and earned it because she's been with you through so many problems. She's a little frustrated, though, that she couldn't get you angry, a little agitated because she's a little frightened of being close to someone. She's used to getting rejected and kicked around and keeps seeming to need somebody to give her a hard time rather than wait for it to happen, which she expects it's going to happen anyway. She can't stand waiting. But if you refuse to let her get you to reject her, what can she do? So one area is cleared up. But she seems to have more things on her mind. She's really determined to see if you have more controls now than you used to. How many times did she push you, test you, to get you to run out and get drunk? Now she seems to be checking to see if you like this way again, the way you always did, get mad when she pushes you, go out and get drunk. She begins talking again about a new area. You know she's lonely while you were away for a while. She's wanted to be loved by someone, but somehow it just hadn't happened. Now she's fighting it, fighting her own desires, not knowing what it is she's doing. She starts talking. Well, I think I know why you brought me here. You just wanted a weekend of sex. That's all you ever think about. I might have known it wouldn't be just a trip. You just want to spend the whole trip in bed. Well, I think you must be some kind of sex fiend, and I'm not going to have anything to do with it. Well, that one really threw you, but you're relaxing still, telling yourself, keep calm, because sometime or other, every man gets told this, and it's good to have an answer ready instead of defending yourself. You think for a minute while you're in your completely relaxed state, instead of just jumping up and saying, don't call me that, don't accuse me. You just sit there, completely relaxed, thinking, what'll I tell her? What can I answer to that when I've been accused of a sex fiend? Because, as a matter of fact, that is what you have on your mind. But you tell her, who said anything about sex? There's a bed here and a couch, but I don't want you to feel pushed into anything. I know we've enjoyed each other in the past, but I also know that times haven't always been good between us. I know that you're afraid now of what will happen, but I'm willing to just work as hard as I can to make you comfortable and enjoy this trip. And if sex makes you uncomfortable, then there's no reason we can't enjoy each other on this trip without sex. I hope you didn't mind my holding your hand while we walked along. I felt really good just being able to touch you as we went along. I felt really close to you. And, you know, I've always been very attracted to you. You know, the last comments really threw her. She really thought with that accusation of you being a sex fiend, you were going to really blow it. She's looking at you a little confused. She didn't expect that answer. She thought you would immediately begin demanding that she go to bed with you to prove your manhood. Then she could have called you all the names in the book, called you a sex fiend, having a filthy mind, all you can think about is sex. But it's hard for her to take your last statement and make anything nasty out of it at all. You presented it like you and I, when we held hands in front of all outdoors, all the wonders nature has to offer, grew closer to each other and to God. She can't really continue to think of you as a sex fiend since you refuse to buy the idea yourself. She never really did think of you this way, but she knows your sore points. You or nobody else likes to be called those things. But by denying it to her, she would have taken that as an admission. If you'd have said, no, I'm not a sex fiend, she would have had you there too. So just by changing it around, she's left without the chance to fight. She's still irritated about something. She still seems to be so uncertain about you. She keeps testing you, though. She acts as though she thinks you might run out any minute, almost suggests you leave at times. You wonder about this trip. You came on this trip to enjoy yourself, and now you're put through this scene with her. She's so afraid that you're going to leave anyway without her knowing what to do about it. She seems to try to push you into leaving. She begins drifting into the past, talking about the past. She starts listing the times you've disappointed her in the past, the time you were to come home and didn't show up for 3 days, the time you were too drunk to stand up, about the time you got angry and hit her, about the time you walked off and left her in a bar, about the time you didn't give her enough money to run the house to buy groceries. To hear her tell it, you're the worst failure in the world. But you've let yourself remain completely relaxed throughout all of this. You haven't said anything, you've just let her ramble on and on. You're still completely relaxed. You're really glad that you've learned how to master this technique of relaxing. You know that she has to say these things. You know she has to try to get a response from you. You know she's caught in her own pattern and needs somehow to bring up the past. That you've discovered something new. You don't have to defend yourself because what she's accusing you of was you in the past. She's talking about you then, not you now. Instead of defending yourself, getting into more and more of an argument, you say, I wonder why you keep bringing up the past. She answers, it's important. Am I supposed to forget all those things ever happened? Am I supposed to just put them out of my mind? You say, sometimes we get so busy living in the past we can't enjoy the present. That doesn't seem to stop her completely, but it does slow her down a little bit. But she recovers and then begins being even harsher. She says, I wouldn't be a bit surprised if you ran out of here right now and got a bottle. That's her crowning statement. That's what she really would like. This would solve all of her problems. You were the failure, and she avoided having to deal with you as a person. It's easier to deal with the drunk if you're frightened yourself. You're amazed to hear that from her lips. She's really trying to push you to drink for some reason. Maybe she gets in control when you're drinking. Finally you say, well, I think we have a lot of things to talk about, but I'm not sure bringing up our past sins is going to help. I'd like to keep talking to you, but I don't feel we're going anywhere right now. This makes her really angry. She wants a fight in the worst way. She wants you to defend yourself, to say, oh, it wasn't my fault that time I drank, so she can tear your story to pieces. But you've made a pledge to never talk about drinking to her or anyone else, because talking about it fills the time that you could be using to do or talk about something worthwhile. You decide a cooling off period is in store. You tell her, look, I'm going to take a little walk. I think it would be good if we both had a chance to cool off a little. I'll be back in about an hour. She seems to feel like she's won a victory. See, I told you, I knew you'd do it. I knew you'd run out and get drunk. You better not leave me. You say, I'm not leaving you. I'm going out to think things over. I think you've told me a lot of feelings, and I want to have a chance to digest some of the things you've said. I want to try to see if I've done so much damage to you in the past that the wounds I've made are too deep to heal. You're admitting in a mild way that things haven't been perfect. At the same time, you're still not trying to deny it or make it her fault. or just something that happened. But you're also telling her in a mild way that unless she gets off your back, if she has that many gripes about the situation, that you're not even going to make an effort. You tell her, why don't you try to get a little nap or read over the brochures so we can figure out what we want to see tomorrow. I'll be back in an hour. She's angry. You better not leave, she says. Then as you go out the door, she says, you better not have anything to drink or you're going to really get it. You walk out in front of the room, out into the cool night air. You smile, relax quite a bit. In spite of yourself, she did create some tension in you. She tried, because you were trying to figure out just how to respond to all that anger. But still you didn't want to give her the opportunity to fight. That seems to have been what she really wanted. Her last statement is the clincher. If you don't drink, it will be like you didn't act like a man. Because she said, don't drink. If you don't, then you follow her orders. If you do drink, she'll say, see, I told you so, you drunken bum. Whatever you do, it will seem like she made you do it. So you decide to make the decision by yourself. Some things in your life you'll let her decide, but whether you drink or not is your decision. Only you can decide to drink or not drink. If you turn the decision over to her, whenever she gets mad at you, she will accuse you of wanting to drink, and you will take one to please her or to show her that you're man enough to go against her orders, which is the same thing as pleasing her. You decide that you won't let her decide about your drinking. You walk over to the cafe, which is open till late at night. It's about midnight, the bar is still open, but you know you don't want to go into the bar. In spite of what you want, you find your feet heading you right to the bar. You get to the swinging door of the bar and look in. It's dimly lit. People are laughing, having fun, it seems. Though they're all drunk, you think, maybe I'll have just one beer to show her. Then you get mad at yourself because you had just said you were going to make that decision yourself, not let it be her decision. You walk away from the bar and suddenly you feel really great. Walking away from the bar, imagining yourself now. You feel wonderful. A tingling goes all up and down your backbone as you walk away. You feel alive and refreshed. Even your woman hassling you, nagging away at you, was kind of stimulating, especially since you didn't get angry yourself. You feel really great about the way you handled it. You've been fighting, arguing, or rather fighting to not argue for some hours now. It's tired you. You tried to remain reasonable and listen. It was hard, because you never could stick in that kind of thing before. What you used to do was fight a while, go out, get loaded, then come back and do a really good job of fighting. This time you know you're going to go back and see her and maybe fight some more, but this time you're going to do it sober. You sit down at the counter and the fellow next to you strikes up a conversation with you. Before you know it, you're telling him about your drinking problem, how you'd like a drink now. You know that an alcoholic can walk into a room of sober people, can have everyone in that room telling him to quit drinking within 10 minutes. Then he has enough reasons to drink because he has to prove he's a man and doesn't need to listen to all those people giving him orders. This fellow acts strange. He doesn't tell you not to drink. He tells you By the way she acted, you're perfectly in your rights. If you went in and got drunk right now, it would be entirely her fault. You wanted him to encourage you to not drink, and here he is telling you it was all her fault. He keeps talking. How can you prove you're a man if you don't go get drunk and tell her what you think of her, he says. You're surprised by this. You say, no, I don't want to go get drunk to please her. I don't want to drink at all. Then he gives you even more reasons to drink, reasons you have used before. But they sound odd coming from him. You don't like to hear them or agree with them. Look, this stranger says, you're blaming yourself for this, when, to look at the facts, she's the one that's guilty. She's the one driving you to drink. If you took a drink now after the way she's run you down, you would be perfectly justified. Everyone would understand. I don't want to drink, you say. Over and over, but he keeps going on. Look, don't you want to prove you're in charge, that you're boss? What better way can you show her who's the boss than by going against her orders? Besides, you know that if you got drunk, she would probably be right there to take care of you when you passed out. She'd nurse you back to health. You wouldn't see the Grand Canyon tomorrow, but who cares? You would know someone was willing to take care of you. And that's a pretty wonderful thing, to be taken care of just like a baby. Have someone hold your sick head the next day and really feel sorry for you. You can't understand why this stranger is saying all these things. The funny thing is, the more he encourages you to drink, the more angry you feel about drinking, the more you decide you don't want to drink. He keeps talking. You're not responsible for your drinking, he says. Then he talks some more. Every time you've ever drank is because someone else made you drink, because they disappointed you, they abandoned you, they got you mad, they insulted you. You've never been responsible for your drinking even once in your life. Why should you try now to make it your responsibility when it isn't? So you answer him. Look, you tell him, I don't know what kind of funny game you're playing, but nobody made me drink before. I did it myself, and nobody's going to make me drink or not drink now. This fellow keeps going on. He must be some kind of nut. He's telling you as you sip your coffee, and I'm not trying to tell you what to do. You have to decide that yourself. But if I was you, here's what I'd do. He says that, immediately contradicting himself, because now he's telling you what to do. What I think you should do, he says, is pull the wool over her eyes. What you should do is get 2 cups of coffee to take out, empty out half of yours, fill it with vodka. Go back there and give her a cup of coffee. You can sit right there drinking your coffee, get loaded right in front of her. You can pull the wool over her eyes and she won't even know what you're drinking, especially if you use vodka in your coffee. That doesn't have a smell, you know. You answer him, if you're so hot on drinking, why don't you have a drink? Why aren't you in the bar instead of out here drinking coffee? He says, well, I may not be very bright, but at least I'm not crazy. I got a big day tomorrow, and a drunk is the last thing I need. I'm going to go out and watch the sunrise over the Grand Canyon. I wouldn't touch that stuff with a 10-foot pole. I've been through that route. I don't need something to suck in my mouth like a baby every time I get a little nervous or every time my wife gives me a hard time. But a guy like you need a pacifier. You need some way of getting through your nervousness. You can't just sit there and take it. So why not ease the pressures on your life? You shake every time somebody says boo to you, you think the world's going to end if someone calls you a nasty name. You're too afraid to be nervous about anything. So that's why I say you should get that coffee, fill yours with booze. She'll never know. And then you'll have proved you're a man. You want to get even with her for the hard time she's given you, don't you? Now we're coming to the end of session 13. The scene which you just heard will be continued in a later tape. Now you can begin opening your eyes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Your eyes are open, still relaxed. Your eyes are opening, rousing up more and more, still relaxed. Rousing up, but still relaxed.